The evacuation. Ash fell like snow. The twin suns of Zhaereth glinted weakly through the smoke-filled skies as orbital bombardments shook the mountains. Fires spread through the once sacred groves of resonance. Above, silver trails crisscrossed as Thalkai, refugee ships fled into the stratosphere. Below, chaos reigned. Aerya clutched her infant close, cradling little Sail in the crook of her arms. The child let out a soft chirr, unaware of the end unraveling around them. Even with her heart cracking, Aerya whispered a prayer into the child's ear, soft syllables of her people's ancient lullaby. The ground trembled beneath her bare feet. The Zin'Tar were closing in. Transport Sector 4 now boarding. Repeat, Sector 4. The harsh human tongue blared from an overhead speaker. The translation barely caught up in her neural link. Aerya hesitated at the threshold of the boarding platform. Hundreds pressed forward. Thalkai elders in flowing robes, younglings, injured humans bleeding from torn armor, all desperate to escape. She turned to her mate, Terran, his face streaked with ash. "I'll carry him," he started. "No," Aerya said. "His heartbeat calms when he hears mine." Terran nodded, placed a trembling hand on Sail's head. "I'll make sure the path is clear. Get to the ship. I'll meet you on board." They parted in the crowd. The surge swept Aerya forward like a river. The ship's ramp loomed. Then the explosion. The ground split beneath her. She stumbled, arms clutched tight around Sail. But in a flash of noise and light, the baby was torn from her grasp. A piece of the platform crumpled and fell. Aerya screamed and dove, fingers outstretched, but she only caught empty air. Sail vanished into the rubble below. Sergeant Marcus Rains landed hard on one knee, boots crunching broken tile and scorched moss. The blast had thrown half the evac squad sideways. He dragged a Thalkai elder to his feet, then scanned the wreckage. Then he heard it, a thin, rising cry beneath the rubble. A human baby wouldn't make a sound like that, but it was a baby nonetheless. He turned toward the collapsed corridor and sprinted. His exosuit hissed, compensating for heat and shifting gravity. The cry rose again, strained, gurgling, terrified. "Sergeant," his lieutenant barked over comms. "Fall back. We are sealing off this sector." Marcus ignored the order. He pulled twisted beams and shattered crystal tiles apart with brute force. A pulse cannon lay, half-buried, near the rubble. Beneath a heat-warped roof tile, a small form squirmed. An alien infant. Big-eyed, silver-scaled, wrapped in a soft moss fiber sling, barely alive. "Got you, little guy," Marcus whispered, lifting him gently. The baby blinked and whimpered. Another explosion rattled the world behind him. His HUD showed the evac transports lifting off. He was too late. "Command, this is Rains. I have a civilian child. Evac's gone. Request extraction." Static. A drone zipped overhead. Zin'Tar make a black, beetle-like machine with scanning lenses. It hesitated, fixating on Marcus. He raised his rifle, then stopped. The infant chirped again. Instead of firing, the drone hovered, recording. Something in its programming was changing. Marcus didn't care. He ran. Hours later, Aerya knelt by the crater where she'd last seen her child. Fires flickered in the darkening sky. The platform was abandoned. The final transports had gone. Her mate was gone too. Only silence remained. She searched for hours until her fingers bled and her knees gave out. Eventually, the air grew toxic. She was pulled away by human soldiers and placed aboard the last scout vessel. They found no body, only a scrap of moss sling, torn and scorched. Sail was gone. In Thalkai culture, there was no burial without the body. Yet, the dead must be mourned. So Aerya stood among strangers, cradling emptiness, and whispered his name into the sky. "Return to the stars, little one," she said. "You were light, and now you rejoin it." The ship lifted, and the ground of Zhaereth vanished behind her. She never saw the human in the mountains. She never knew he carried her child. Not yet. The grave and the guardian. Snow fell gently on the ridges of New Thalshera, blanketing the red rock in a fragile white layer. Aerya stood still at the edge of the ceremonial grove, her robes dusted with frost. Before her lay a small stone marker, no body beneath it, only memory. The humans had carved it for her when she asked for a place to mourn. The grave was empty, just like her arms. She reached down, placing a smooth crystal atop the stone. The ritual was simple. Speak the name, surrender the grief. The Thalkai did not wail or rend garments. Grief was a sacred current. To resist, it only brought more pain. Sail, she whispered. The wind carried the name across the grove. Somewhere beyond the clouds, Zhaereth still burned. It had been 6 months since the evacuation. 6 months since she lost her son. Not a day passed without her reliving the moment she let go. She had accepted the loss, or at least she thought she had. But sometimes at night, she swore she heard his churring laugh in the wind. 300 kilometers to the north, Sergeant Marcus Rains stood outside a rust-red shelter dome, shifting sail from one arm to the other as the infant clutched a ration bar with sticky fingers. The boy had grown quickly, faster than human children, but with far more curiosity and energy. "You're going to break my spine before you're 3, kid," Marcus muttered. Sail chirped and pressed the ration bar to Marcus's lips. He smiled and took a bite. The dome had been his home for 5 of the past 6 months, half submerged in the forest foothills. After escaping the Zin'Tar, he'd fled deep into the old terraforming zones, living off scraps and salvage until a human patrol picked up his emergency beacon. He had refused to turn over Sail to any authority. There had been arguments, threats, even a tribunal. But the drone changed everything. The black Zin'Tar scout drone, the one that had witnessed it all, had survived the crash too. Marcus had salvaged it, repaired it. Something in its programming had shifted. It no longer transmitted enemy coordinates or attacked biologicals. It recorded, observed. Sometimes it even hovered by Sail protectively, chirping low frequencies that Marcus liked to imagine were lullabies. Now it floated beside him silently, red-eye blinking. "Yeah, I know," Marcus said. "Time to go." Word had come through weeks ago. A full human Thalkai summit was being held at the capital settlement. He'd avoided it at first, not wanting to draw attention. But Sail was no longer safe in the wild. The boy needed medical care, guidance, a culture Marcus couldn't give him. The child deserved to know who he was and where he came from, even if it meant losing him. Aerya wandered back to the refugee housing dome slowly. The ceremony finished, though her chest felt heavier. She passed a group of human children playing in the snow, shrieking in joy. One little girl wore a scarf with the Thalkai sun symbol embroidered on it. Strange, she thought, how deeply their cultures had begun to blend. Yet for all their cooperation, she had kept her distance. She respected humanity's strength, its ingenuity, its refusal to surrender even in the face of extinction. But they were wild, chaotic, willing to risk everything for things the Thalkai considered ephemeral. And still, they had saved her people. "Priestess Aerya," called a voice from behind. She turned to see Elder Nerol, one of the colony council members, approaching with a datapad. "There's something you should see." Aerya frowned. "Is it urgent?" "It concerns your son." Her heart clenched. Nerol handed over the datapad. A video played, grainy, recorded by an aerial drone. It showed a human in battered armor running through collapsing ruins, an infant cradled in his arms. A Zin'Tar scout hovered nearby. The child had silver-scaled skin. Her legs gave way. She dropped to her knees in the snow. The name burst from her lips before thought could catch it. "Sail." In the forest, Marcus packed the last of his gear onto the crawler. He glanced at Sail, now asleep against his chest in a sling he'd woven from spare uniform straps and old Thalkai moss fiber. The only thing left from the day he'd found the child. The drone clicked once and hovered closer. Its red lens blinked. A message came through his HUD. "Summit requests your presence. Thalkai witness identified child. Confirm." Marcus looked down at the sleeping boy. "Yeah," he said quietly. "Let's bring him home." Reunions and revelations. The summit chamber on New Thal Shera buzzed with quiet tension. Thalkai robes rustled against polished stone as elders took their places in the crescent-shaped assembly. Across from them, a delegation of humans, officers Diplomats, scientists, stood stiffly, unsure of the protocol, but trying to appear respectful. Aerya stood apart. Her heart thundered in her chest, yet her face remained calm. That was the Thalkai way. Let the storm pass within while the surface stayed still. But this storm had teeth. For hours now, she had been waiting, preparing, praying. The recordings were undeniable. The child in the human soldier's arms, the silver skin, the shape of the eyes, even the cry. It was her son. Sale was alive. She had spent months mourning a grave with no body. Now she wondered whether the universe was cruel for letting her believe he was dead or kind for returning him. The human commander, a gray-haired woman with medals glinting on her coat, cleared her throat. We have confirmed that the individual recovered by Sergeant Marcus Raines is a pure-blood Thalkai infant, she said. DNA matches the biometric data recorded during the evacuation of Zhaereth. Murmurs swept through the Thalkai assembly. Aerya didn't speak. She couldn't. Commander Lean continued. The child was saved during the final collapse of the southern colony. Sergeant Raines extracted him under fire, despite being ordered to withdraw. He lived off-grid for months before returning with the infant. Aerya's gaze snapped to the entrance as the chamber doors opened. Marcus Raines walked in slowly. His armor was cleaned, but still bore the scuffs of war. A sling was strapped across his chest, and nestled inside it, half asleep, was Sale, her son. Aerya's hands trembled. The boy looked different now. Larger, his skin slightly dulled by exposure to a human environment. But those eyes, they were still Sale's. Bright and wide, and full of the same innocent curiosity he had been born with. Marcus stopped in the center of the chamber, uncertain. "Do I kneel, or something?" he muttered to a nearby aide. "You may stand," said Elder Nerol. Aerya stepped forward. Their eyes met, the soldier and the mother. "I am Aerya," she said softly. "I am his mother." Marcus swallowed. "I know." He gently lifted the child and passed him forward. Aerya took him in shaking arms. For a heartbeat, Sale blinked, confused. Then his tiny hand reached up and brushed her cheek. He chirred, a sound halfway between a giggle and a call. She gasped. That sound. That was the sound he had made the day he was born. Her composure shattered. She sank to her knees, cradling him tightly, tears trailing silently down her face. The room was silent. Marcus watched, unsure if he should step back. He had feared this moment, feared that Sale would forget her, that the child, raised by human hands, would cry or flinch or pull away. But Sale curled into her like he remembered. Marcus felt the tension in his chest unwind. Slowly, Aerya stood after a moment, her son still in her arms. She turned to Marcus. "You saved him," she said. "I couldn't leave him behind." Marcus said simply, "That choice went against your orders." "Yeah," he said. "I disobeyed. Almost got court-martialed for it. You risked your life for a child, not your own." He gave a lopsided smile. "Human thing." One of the Thalkai elders, Elder Vesari, stepped forward, eyes narrowed. "And what the Zin'Tar drone that followed you? Why did it not destroy you and the child?" Marcus shrugged. "It changed. I don't know why. Maybe it saw something it wasn't programmed to understand." As if on cue, the black drone hovered into the room behind him. Its lens flickered gently. Aerya looked at it with unease, then wonder. It witnessed the bond. Marcus nodded. "It watched me raise Sale. Feed him. Keep him warm. Fight off wildlife. I think it learned something." Silence hung over the room like breath before thunder. Finally, Elder Nerol said, "This changes many things." "Yes," Aerya said quietly. "This is not only the story of a child saved. It is the story of humanity's soul." She looked down at Sale, who now held her thumb and Marcus's hand at once. "Both species, both worlds. We mourn the death of what we thought could never be recovered," she said. "But perhaps what we believed was lost was only waiting to be found. Humanity redefined." 3 days had passed since the summit. The story of the child, the soldier, and the drone had spread across New Thalshera like fire through dry grass. Every news feed, every message thread, even on distant orbital stations, buzzed with speculation, awe, and, for some, discomfort. Not everyone could accept that a Thalkai child had survived because of a human's defiance, or that a machine of a Zin'Tar had watched it happen and changed. But none of that mattered now to Aerya. She sat beside a slow-moving stream in the meditation garden, the gentle babble echoing the rhythms of her breath. Sale lay curled on a blanket in the sun, fast asleep, his little hands twitching with dreams. A soft smile played on his lips. He was safe. He was home. Marcus sat nearby, elbows on his knees, watching a dragonfly-like creature hover over the reeds. He wore no armor now, just a plain shirt, torn at the sleeve, and a look of exhaustion barely held in check by quiet pride. "You didn't have to stay," Aerya said softly, not looking at him. "I know," he replied. "Didn't feel right to leave yet." She nodded. "He calls for you when you're gone." Marcus turned his head. "Really? He doesn't speak your words?" "Not fully," Aerya said. "But he mimics your sounds, especially when he's hungry." He grinned. "That sounds about right." A silence settled between them, comfortable if heavy with all the things still unsaid. "I feared," Aerya said at last, "that he would not remember me, that I had lost not just the son, but the connection we once had." "You didn't," Marcus said. "That bond doesn't break." "Not really. He remembered you, even if he didn't know it yet." Aerya reached over and brushed a small lock of Sale's hair aside. "You didn't just carry him through fire, Sergeant Rains. You carried him through silence, through uncertainty, through your own fear. I was just trying to do the right thing. Many say that. Few act on it." Marcus glanced at the hovering Zin'Tar drone resting silently on a tree branch nearby. Its red lens flicked open briefly, then dimmed again. "Even machines," she said, noticing his glance, "seem changed by your example." "Don't give me too much credit," Marcus said. "It wasn't part of the plan. None of this was." "But sometimes," she replied, "the universe offers us a different path. One shaped not by orders or outcomes, but by choices." Footsteps approached. Elder Neril appeared, flanked by Commander Lean. The human and Thalkai leaders exchanged glances before turning to Aerya and Marcus. "The council has come to a decision," Neril said. Lean nodded. "It concerns the child and both of you." Marcus stood, instinctively straightening as if before a superior. Aerya rose more slowly, Sale still asleep in her arms. "We believe this event marks a new beginning," Neril said. "One that demands both our peoples step beyond custom." "Sale represents more than survival," Lean added. "He's living proof of what happens when trust is placed above protocol, when compassion overrides fear." Neril stepped forward, expression solemn but kind. "With your agreement, we would like to create a shared guardianship." Marcus blinked. "Shared? Yes," Aerya said, her voice steady. "Not custody, not division. We raise him together. Both peoples, both perspectives." Marcus hesitated, then looked at Sale. The boy shifted in his sleep and, for a second, gave a soft sigh that sounded exactly like a human word. "Home." Marcus looked back at Aerya. "I'd like that," he said. Months passed. Aerya and Marcus worked side by side to raise Sale, blending songs and languages, rituals and stories. The child thrived, switching between dialects effortlessly, sometimes even mimicking the drone's soft mechanical chirps. He grew up known across two worlds, the child of war and peace, of sorrow and salvation. The Thalkai learned that humans were more than soldiers. The humans learned that stillness could be strength. And on a quiet day, years later, when Sale stood before the Unified Council to speak as a diplomat for both species, he told them simply, "When my world fell apart, a human carried me through fire. He didn't know who I was. He didn't care what species I belonged to. He just knew I needed saving. That's the kind of galaxy I want to help build." The chamber rose in silence and awe, and in the shadows, a forgotten drone hovered, recording it all. A witness to what made humanity more than just a force of war. A force of heart.